Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Wisdom Wednesdays. I believe this is our second Wednesday of the year, if I'm getting it right, or first. Someone can confirm. But so excited to see everyone here today. And today we have Harinamananda giving today's talk. And as we wait for people to trickle in, maybe we'll start with an icebreaker that I thought would be nice to just talk about. So I was thinking, how has your experience with starting a new year been with, just basic, they talk about resolutions, goals, or even just the struck reality that we're in another year. How has that been for you, if you'd like to share? Or if you'd like to try something out, or you can say that I haven't thought about it. Either of those options work. Um, yeah.
I'd have to say, I usually don't think about it. New Year, one thing I've noticed that people do New Year's resolutions only to break them at the first 20 minutes of the new year. So, I get people asking, so, you have any New Year's resolutions? No, I don't do New Year's resolutions. I mean, I'll resolve to fix something, but it would be like,
Yeah.
something on my own agenda, not necessarily separated by a year.
Yeah.
I have to admit that, okay, now 3,000 years ago, the year did not start in the middle of winter. It actually started in some circles in the spring, in
Mm.
others in the fall. And I was just curious about when did the new year start? Say during the Vedic period.
You're curious about when did it start?
Yes,
Anybody know?
Most traditions have like after a harvest,
that
so that
makes
would be
sense.
yeah.
Interesting.
So when it's like the first harvest, and it's like a celebration, blessings from God. We have so much grain, and we're going to thank God for giving us this grain, give us the sun, the rain, and everything required. And we're also praying to protect it and look after and use it properly. So
Mm.
um, that's usually the case. So I know they have in South India, the Tamil New Year would be like in April, so that's like considered their harvest. I guess the other side of the world would be maybe in September or something like that. So usually that was considered like a new beginning.
Mm. That's interesting.
But in the Hare Krishna tradition, the New Year starts on the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. So that's also around March. That's considered the New Year, like the golden age beginning on the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. So according to that calendar, we're like 583 or so. Sorry, I forgot the year. So
Well, it's interesting to note that the current calendar that we use is the Gregorian calendar, and it's only about 440 years old because in Europe we had the Julian calendar where the new year started on March 25,
Mm.
and it was that way actually in various parts of Europe until they converted over to the Gregorian calendar. And then you still had, old Russia still had the Julian calendar,
hmm.
which of course started with Julius Caesar.
Yeah, I guess ultimately it would be like the an orbit of one orbit of the planet that also would be considered a year doing 360 degrees
Mm.
traveling of a traveling planet that could also be considered a year.
A solar year.
Yeah, depends which planet you're on. So.
It's riding on Pluto, that would be a very long.
Long, long one. Yeah,
Yeah.
some are really long.
I was just thinking about what you said, Graham, about not having like a yearly thing because we like you see people just breaking it right then, but I feel like I've also been in that situation where I've said something and I have broken it pretty quickly. So then for me it seems like a daunting task to like chalk out a whole new year. And I feel like having smaller goals helps me. So I try to like do okay, what is like my target in Jan or what is like February looking like, kind of to keep me in track. So I was thinking a whole yearly goals haven't worked out well for me, but I know like long-term visions have. Like, this is something that I'd like to do. And so I was just reflecting on how that's turned out for me. Yeah, Ian, go ahead.
I really like the point you made about like smaller goals. One of
Hmm.
my spiritual teachers, he says how, if you want to read a book, a goal can be simply to put the book on the table, uh,
Hmm.
instead of the goal of having to finish the book. Because by taking the
Yeah.
incremental step to even put the book on the table, you are now working towards the goal of reading the book and picking it up because now it's in front of you instead of on the shelf,
Mhm.
instead of it being an unachievable goal with a bunch of barriers and
Yeah,
yeah.
I like that. Because as soon as you like touch the book, you're like, wait, might as well just read it. Because now it's in front of you. Thank you, Ian. All right. Now I'll hand it over to our speaker for this evening to shed some light on quiet beginnings and how to start the year with purpose, clarity, and anything else that you might want to share. Before I do that, I just want to give a quick welcome and introduction to Harinamananda. If you've been to Wisdom Wednesdays before, you already know him and are probably very excited for this talk. But he is a full-time monk and he has dedicated his life to spirituality and bhakti yoga and sharing it with others and helping them find spiritual happiness, peace, wisdom. So we're just so grateful to have you today, and we can't wait to hear what you have to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me just offer some prayers for blessings to speak something inspiring. Om Gyan Tamadandasya Gyanana Shalakya Chakshumi Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamaya Dadati Swavantitam Panchakalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavnibhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. So quiet beginnings, interesting subject. Because usually when we want to make an endeavor upon achieving something, then we kind of make a loud announcement before we even make any attempts. And usually that's not usually recommended. If you have a certain goal, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, um, it's best to go internal first. So one can go in front of God, in front of the Supreme, the Divine, within one's heart, and be prayerful. This is what it means to sort of quiet things down, to stop and and in a humble mood. And every one of us wants to make progress for perfection, whatever endeavor. But obviously, we need help. And this is what it means to have a quiet beginning. When we see great people of the world who have achieved so much, we always hear about their quiet beginnings in the classic rags to riches story, or it could be some revolutionary person who is just had an idea, just had a dream, just had a desire. But from these beginnings, they had to just stop and go within, to be prayerful to God, to understand their position of being a little weak, a little unqualified against a big target, against many obstacles. And that can happen in any sphere of life. Like I said, we have physical goals in terms of health or even just finance or getting ahead in the material world. We have goals emotionally in our relationships with our family, friends, spouses, um, even just with strangers, let me be more open to others. Sometimes we want to be more social. Or even, of course, spiritual is probably the most important. That's why we're all here on this call. We all have a spiritual goal to achieve. And that spiritual goal can be to not be bewildered by the distractions of this body and its presentations. It can be in terms of connecting to God much more in the form of meditation or study or in becoming more purified, living a more purified life. So quiet beginnings means one needs to sort of stop and call out from one's heart to the Supreme, to the Divine. This is the best place to start. Usually with the discussion of New Year's resolutions and what are you doing for New Year's? Anything special? I remember growing up as a teenager and, as the New Year came, you were stressing. You were stressing out. What are you doing for New Year's? Which party are you going to? We have to end the new year like with a bang and start the new year strong. It's like so much stress, and we think that if we find the best party or like we're amongst like an amazing atmosphere, that will end the year wonderfully, and it will set the year in like with a running start. So obviously this is the opposite to this quiet beginning or like a finishing the year with depth. So in the mood of humility, we can be thankful for so much in this year that that God gave us. Even in our physical life, the if you really want to build gratitude, think about what's the most important thing in your life. You can have a look at your inventory. What is the most important thing? But if you really think about it, the most important thing is your next breath, right? If you don't have your next breath, nothing else really matters. Just worrying about that next breath. So who is giving that next breath? This is obviously someone that's superior to everything. Someone actually cares about us despite our ignorance, our foolishness, our distracted life. And this is just on the physical plane. What to speak of like taking the breath for granted? We have our family, a place to stay, a roof over our heads. We have, some money so we can buy things and have something to eat, even just like have some entertainment. This is all given. This is not because I've done it by the sweat of my own brow. You know, we have just been in the position of receiving. In the scripture, it says that one is born with debt. That's a heavy question. I'm sorry I'm going a bit heavy, but this heaviness will help create depth. If I just speak on a shallow platform and everything's all good and you're doing well, then there's no room to actually go inward and try to make a change for something better. So, yes, we are born with debt. We have a debt to our forefathers because we inherited everything they worked hard for by being born in their family. We have a debt to the demigods. These are universal administrators who have been put in charge by God to give us air, water, light, everything, all the elements of the universe. We are indebted to the great sages who have given us knowledge and passed it down. We are in debt to other living entities that have helped us along the way. We are in debt to even like animals. Maybe you have a dog or a cat, or maybe you've been on a horse and carriage. I don't know. So yes, of course, the cow has provided milk in this way. And I guess if you're not the type who's vegetarian, I guess you're definitely indebted to the animals that sacrifice their lives for you to eat their meat, their flesh. This is obviously a debt to pay. So, what to do when one has just given themselves for our betterment? Then one needs to pay off that debt. One needs to show appreciation. So, the quickest way, actually, is by surrendering to God, surrendering to Krishna. This is actually Albert's time. How can we do that? And there's a book called The Nectar Instruction, and it's written by a great sage named Rupa Goswami from 500 years ago, a disciple of Lord Chaitanya. And him and his brother Sanatana Goswami, they've studied all the verses in the Vedas. There's like 1 billion verses, and they summed it down into 11 verses. So worth getting such a book. Maybe Ayan or Manya can get you a copy. Only 11 verses to achieve perfection. So in the third verse, it gives 6 items of success. And the first 3 are probably the most important. So enthusiasm, patience, and confidence. These are the 3. The next 3 are following the practices of regulative principles in spiritual life, giving up materialistic association, and following in the footsteps of the previous saints or acharyas who have set the way for us. In this way, you're guaranteed success. This is what's been delineated there. So let's just talk. I couldn't go through all 6 because we have not enough time, but we'll go through the first 3. So enthusiasm. Enthusiasm comes from a Greek word, enthos, which means to be possessed by God. This is where enthusiasm comes from. Anywhere we see enthusiasm, even in material life, someone is dancing, but they're just really enthusiastic, really, you feel like, okay, this person is into it. Or someone who's studying a lot and they're just like, you can't even distract them, they're into it. Or someone's playing a video game, or someone, uh, playing the music, and they're in the zone. I don't know if you've seen that before, people in the zone like that. So this is enthusiasm. And this enthusiasm, yes, to be possessed by God. This is needed for any endeavor. In this nectar instruction, they defined enthusiasm as endeavor with intelligence. So, what type of intelligence are we talking about? So, intelligence starts with at least knowing who you are. many of you attend such as these talks, so I will not go too much into it about the real self. But obviously, we are not these material bodies. We're an eternal spirit soul, full of knowledge and bliss. And if you don't know who you are, where is your intelligence? So we need to do something that's for the soul. The soul needs to be possessed by God. That soul is a part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, God. Krishna, Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh. So many names for the Supreme Soul. So that we are the same in quality as God, but in quantity we're very different, very small. And God is very big. But He's so kind that He wants to have an intimate relationship with you. So you may think, well, how am I supposed to develop such a relationship when I'm so small? This is like the president of presidents. We can't even run into the president. You need like to you need to know so many people. You need to somehow get through the security upon securities. How am I supposed to know that supreme person, ruler of all the universes? Well, he's made it very easy. He's very accessible, and he understands. Well, the nature of God is that he's all loving. There's no bounds to or restriction to his love. We kind of think that if we were God, if I was like the strongest, the most beautiful, the richest, the most famous, I wouldn't hang out with little people. You know, to God, we're kind of like ants in our room. We don't even acknowledge that they existence. But God is very different. God has a very big heart that's ready to acknowledge every single living entity. It's a very powerful way to think of a person. Someone who always acknowledges anyone in the room. And I don't know if you felt like this before with someone that you really respected. You know, you talk to them and it feels like they only focus on you. You know, they're not distracted. They're fully like focused and really paying attention to what you have to say and offer. So they're the people that we really want to have a relationship with. So God does that with all living entities, and He can do it anytime and all the time. He's in your heart as the super soul, fully accessible. So in this way, one can be patient when they hear about the magnanimous nature of Krishna. We kind of project our own human mentality on it. If I was God, that's what I would do to people. But God doesn't love us because of we do something that's really nice. God just loves us because He's like that. You know, he's there in the heart of even the most evil people you can think of in history, like Hitler, and God is there ready to take him in. You know, we've done so many things in our life that we've never told anyone or shown anyone because we think, oh, they're gonna reject me. But God, He's seen it all. Even your thoughts. The thoughts that you thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna kill that person. Don't know if you ever had that thought before. But yes, He's seen that. And He's like, okay, I know you're a bit disturbed. I'll wait. And when you're ready, I'm always ready to take you into my embrace. So when we hear these things, we have some enthusiasm. Okay, spiritual life's for me. I'm a spirit soul, and my goal is to wipe up all debts, show my appreciation for God. All right. But then as you go along your path, you run into obstacles that get in the way. So then one needs to be patient, one needs to be tolerant, the ups and downs of the world. The Bhagavad Gita says, just like the summer and winter seasons come and go, happiness, distress come and go. So when you're in a very distressed material situation, maybe you're not doing well in university, maybe you don't have enough money, maybe someone passed away in the family, maybe someone broke your heart. This will eventually pass by. Just like it's cold and winter. You know, you're in winter now, right? I'm in summer, but you're in winter. I'm in Australia. Sunny day outside. Oh yeah. Everyone's going to the beach, have a surf, mate. Oh yeah. That's the proof I'm Australian. Go for a walk down the beach. So yes. But yeah, you're in the winter. I mean, I never had like a December winter, like with snow, like you see on TV. I never had that before. But yes, you're in winter and it's very cold, but you just have to wait and it warms up. Same here. I'm having such yeah, thank you. I'm having such a good time in summer here, but eventually it'll pass by and winter will come and you have to rug up again. But I'm a traveling mug. I don't care. I travel and I follow the sun and the summer. So that's kind of I'm doing the cheat code. If you have a cheat code, then maybe you don't have to go through so much of the winter. But it doesn't matter. Your karma will follow you anyway. I guarantee it. Doesn't matter how much you change the situation. So one needs to be patient and tolerant. That's the point. So with enthusiasm, you follow it by patience. And then when you hear about the glories and the solid factor of practicing a spiritual life in the form of mantra meditation, in the form of scriptural studies, in the form of associating with spiritually minded persons, then you have confidence. When you hear about the magnanimous nature of Krishna, that yes, he's very caring, he's always ready, then you can endeavor with confidence. So, what I'm speaking about is not just for the new year, it's actually the lifetime career of every living entity to experience unconditional love, which can only be done when one's in a connection with the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Lover. We have an ocean of love to give, but we always put it somewhere limited. Every time we experience heartbreak, it's in two ways. Either you give so much to someone trying to please them, and they say, you just don't satisfy me. It's not enough. Or someone's trying to please you, and you're thinking the same way. You just don't satisfy me. This is boring now. It's run out of juice. So we want unlimited reciprocation. So when we give this ocean of love to God, to Krishna, then we get a reciprocation that because we're so small, we're overflowing in that love. This is the endeavor of every living entity, not just for the new year, but every year. So this is how we, like I said, it's a quiet beginning. So one needs to understand their humble position. And we go into our hearts and call out. We don't go out and then try and make a big show with a hollow heart, but fill the heart with this prayerful mood, with this mood of begging. Spiritual life is supposed to be a mood of begging. And in this way, there's some depth. You're more grave. You're not hollow. Whereas you see everyone else, pretty much 99% of whatever post you see online, it's a hollow smile. But you see in their eyes, they're just screaming out for love. You see models on their billboards, they look like they're really smiling. Once you look in the eyes, you think, okay, this is not a real thing. And then we always have direction. This meeting of Mantra House here in Seattle, this is a great benediction for giving direction. You probably felt like anytime you felt like nothing's working and I just want to lie in bed. I want to escape from the world, in whatever way. It could be intoxication, it could be just boredom. Then you just somehow push yourself towards the next meeting at Mancha House, and then you're just enlivened again. You reset everything, whatever was in that care time when they start chanting, just feel it, just all this weight just thrown off. So we have the equipment, we have the association, we have the knowledge of how to. Yes, we can finish this year strong in a mood of prayer, in a mood of begging, in a mood of introspection. So this is the way we can approach this new year in a strong way and begin it. Not in a big bang, but maybe like a slow, but kind of like a slow wave, if that makes any sense. I'm always giving surfing analogies. But you can see a tsunami before it starts, all the water is sucked out from the shore really slowly, and then it sort of comes through and it's nearly unstoppable. And it doesn't like sort of, end up being like this and then dump onto the shore. No, it just brings all the water out and then it pushes beyond the shore. So we kind of have to build our tsunami like love before we inundate the world. Just fill ourselves up and then it'll come out automatically. So yeah, I find my life is kind of like that. I'm always on the streets chanting and dancing, but I have a lot of quiet time where I'm doing like 2 hours of mantra meditation, study of scripture, um, and hearing from self-realized souls. So this is what I do every day. And, sometimes I take a whole week in India and go even more deeper. Um, so some time away from the noise is required. And if you can't do it alone, do it with others who are interested, because alone is very difficult. So this community you've built is geared towards that. So hopefully, if maybe you can give suggestions to whoever's managing the retreats or sessions or gatherings, can we have a quiet time together in a mood of prayer to enhance our enthusiasm, our patience, and our confidence? So I'll stop here. See if you have any thoughts on okay, in the retreat. There you go. Perfect.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed your talk, especially the quiet time part. And I was wondering if there's some type of journaling or reflection that you practice in writing, because I often hear that journaling is a good way, but it's a little hard to incorporate in practice, also without any guiding prompts, if that makes sense. So just wondering.
Yeah, sure. I was lucky enough to do this retreat back in November, beginning of November, in Vrindavan, Govardhan, with His Holiness Satchidananda Swami and Brijam Prabhu, very, very advanced souls. And they had this session called Alone with Krishna. And you'll be at this like sacred hill called Govardhan, sitting there. They give you this little kit, and in there you had you had a lamp, incense, and you had a picture of Krishna there, and you had like a cloth. So you lay down the cloth, put the picture up, and in this sort of prayerful, you would write. He said, "Okay, 10 minutes of free writing. What would you like to achieve from spending? It's like 2 hours of just alone with Krishna." And then you would just, he said, free writing, but keep the pen moving for 10 minutes. Okay. I personally, I'm not like a journaler, but somehow things were writing. I don't know how. we do have a lot in our heart. I'm surprised that could happen. So yeah, and yeah, and then it sort of ended with the prayer. It's like, okay, Krishna, I want to come close to you, something along those lines. And then you would start off with offering, setting up the picture, and then offering the items, the incense, the lamp, and the flower. And then you sort of just would pray a bit. Okay, I want to come close to you. Please inspire me from my heart. How? And then you would sort of bounce around different ways to connect. It could be reading a scripture. It could be chanting on the beats. It could be just simply having a dialogue with God. And it could be just writing as well. So for 2 hours, you were just bouncing around. What I liked about it was that it didn't become like a checklist of things to do. Okay, then I did my so many hours of chanting or rounds. Okay, now that's done. I don't have to deal with it. Now I did my so much reading of script. Okay, I'm done with that. Now I'm praying. Okay, done with that. I did my little ritual. Okay, it didn't become like that. It's just like, okay, I'm here and I'm gonna spend time with Krishna. And then so okay, let me try some beats, chant a little bit. Okay, then my heart went to, okay, let me read something a little bit, and it was on the lines of getting rid of pride, and pride gets in the way. So then I was a bit prayerful, so let me write something about how pride is in the way of my life, and please Krishna get rid of it. And then, somehow you could have a dialogue, and this interesting way he explained about having a dialogue was really nice. He says, what you do, you introduce yourself to God. I'm this person, I do this, I'm from here, da, da, da. And then you say about how much you know about him, about Krishna, about God. Oh, I know you're very beautiful. I know you did this here and there. I know I read your teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, and I like this and that. And then eventually it becomes uh, like a real dialogue. It's like, yeah, I'm trying my best. I've been doing this for so long, and then you can feel that Krishna is talking to you. My experiences, anyway, I'll tell you, even though it's not supposed to be told. My experience was that Krishna was very eager to help me. It's like, I want to do that. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go. Yeah, I'm ready. I've always been there the whole time. It was like having this old great friend that, you haven't seen for a long time. That's the feeling I got from it. This old great friend. I don't know, sometimes you see an old great friend from school or something and you're like, oh yeah, I remember. But this person wasn't just away, they were there the whole time ready to help you and ready to help you now. So, um, so yeah, you don't have to take 2 hours away you can take like half an hour and then you just like, okay, the whole world is sort of put on pause. I'm gonna just like be in my sacred space where it is, where you have like an altar or like your book room or your meditation room. And it's like, okay, half an hour, only Krishna, just with him. And then you bounce around, chanting on beads, prayers, reading, a little offering of incense. See what happens.
I'm gonna try that. Thank you.
So this free writing is really good. If you start with it, it's really nice. You just keep the pen moving.
Okay.
And then at the end of it, you write down what you experienced
Mm.
and you end it with the prayer. And that's also 10 minutes non-stop free writing. So you
Okay.
could try it out. I really liked it. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice question.
We do have a few more minutes. If anybody would like to share anything or ask any questions, feel free to do so. All right, well, I've got one too. I was waiting to ask.
Okay.
Maybe I'll ask one more. Um, I was just wondering, like the holiday times, I feel like it's just so much um it can feel overwhelming sometimes, even though it's supposed to be a happy time. But I was just wondering, what do you do when it's like a little chaotic or it's kind of like internal chatter of the mind too, to kind of find that peace? Is it just kind of creating a secret place for ourselves that we can be, or is there anything else that you've practiced that has helped you?
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of have this conception that you have your material life and then you have your spiritual life. But actually, your whole life is supposed to become spiritual, even though it may look the same. So, holiday times, yes, it's pretty hectic because I guess one way is that you're trying to buy Christmas presents for everyone. That's also, and you can feel the frantic nature of like Christmas shopping. Everyone's just like, buy, 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 okay, I gotta get this, this. So, yeah, I get that side. Um, yeah, maybe order online, I don't know. Uh, and then you have the meeting with the family and relatives. That's like a usual thing, and they may not share your um, your love for introspection and deep thinking. So sometimes you have to tolerate having shallow like conversations. How's the weather? Oh, the weather's like this. Oh yeah. Or did you watch the sports? Okay, that team, that team. Um, yeah, I guess they're our family members, so we're not gonna try and make them feel uncomfortable if they're not ready to sort of hear about more deeper subject matters. They may ask you about it. That's when you can sort of reveal what you've learned more, but to sort of instigate it a bit. Unfortunately, most family members don't appreciate it. You may have experienced that. So yeah, we kind of tolerate a bit, and then sometimes like if you're, practicing vegetarian, if you're a vegetarian, then they may serve meat. I mean, what you could do is like before coming to the function, to the meeting, just let them know way before that I don't take certain foods. And they may have like this that, but they also want to please you, so you may recommend some recipes or bring a dish of your own. Even if like tell them, just do like a fruit platter or like, but yeah, there's so many nice recipes they could do. And usually parents are like that, especially moms. Oh, new recipe, okay, let me try it out. So they get get a bit excited about it. So there's many things you can do to sort of bridge the gap in terms of dealing with them. And obviously, like I said, this half an hour away from the whole world where you block out everything and just with Krishna, that will carry you throughout the day. So you'll find yourself just spontaneously, like when you're in a situation, just in your heart, and you'll pray to Krishna. Okay, this is a bit stressful, help me through this. I'm with my family, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Krishna, help me through this. Or something like this, how to tackle this situation. You'll just spontaneously find yourself go inward, and then you just like help me through this, and magic happens. I remember one time there was like some big gathering of all like friends and family, and I just started practicing spiritual life. I was like, how am I gonna handle this? I hate this. This is this is not this is complete materialism here. So then they switch on the TV, and there was like this old Indian film about one of the incarnations of Krishna, this half man, half lion. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And it was like, I was in ecstasy. I was like, okay, save the day. It looks like I'm there, but I'm absorbed in something else. Yeah. So there'll always be some magic that'll come in and sort of like, give you a spiritual lease through the material chaos. Yeah, so you have so you can tolerate that.
Thank you. I like that. Finding the positives.
I just
Anyone?
want to say, I'm sorry.
No,
Oh,
go
go
for
ahead.
it, Graham.
I was just asking anyone else want to share. Go ahead.
Oh, well, yeah, I've noticed over the years how commercialized Christmas gets. And, people are more concerned about the toys, you know, for adults and kids. But yeah, I can see where it's distracting, and that's
Yeah, I mean, it was supposed to be celebrating the appearance of Lord Jesus Christ, and I don't. He's like completely out of the picture.
you know, there was something else I wanted to mention. You mentioned vegetarianism, and I venture to say that most of the people here are vegetarian, but for good reason. Uh, I was looking at some of the materials I actually this past summer, winter for you. This is back in May or June, and I bought a packet of books. One was, of course, the Bhagavad Gita. The other was self-realization. I forget who the author was, but somebody in the 70s. But he had a chapter that said, "Thou shalt not kill," and he got into a discussion with a Catholic cardinal, and he said, "Why do you kill?" Well, because it says, "Thou shalt not kill." It didn't say, "Thou shalt not kill people." It said, "Thou shalt not kill." Period. And it talked about, well, okay, well, animals don't have a soul, and so this sage said every living entity has a soul, and this is this dichotomy. And I have yet to finish this chapter, but I just found it interesting. Well, and actually, I got a little bit emotional when I read it because they were talking about when you take an animal to slaughter, the animal cries out. I'm sorry, that brought me to tears because you have a creature that is being sacrificed for your sustenance, and it's suffering. I'm sorry, but I just thought that very poignant, and it would make a lot of people. I used to hunt rabbits with a bow and arrow,
Hmm.
and people would say, "Oh, you're so cruel." And then I would turn around and ask them, "Well, do you eat meat?" "Oh, yeah, but that's not the same." Really? You're paying the butcher to end that creature's life, whether it be a cow, a chicken, pig, or what have you. And of course, I've given up my evil ways. I no longer hunt rabbits. And just seeing a slaughterhouse would make anyone want to become vegetarian. Just, it's horrific. I thought I'd share that. I'm sorry.
No, no, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of ignorance, and also there's addiction to blood and flesh, so it's very hard for many to just give up on the spot. Um, so yes, by the giving out of knowledge in the form of that book you just read. Actually, that conversation turned me away from meat completely that you read. It's yeah, because it's actually a conversation with Srila Prabhupada and a cardinal, French cardinal, Diana. And, both sides were giving wonderful arguments, but obviously the reason for not killing animals for eating is prevailed. And that I couldn't just, it was too strong an argument. I couldn't really get into, I couldn't enjoy meat anymore. It was too much. So, and I never thought I could do it, to be honest. I thought, I like meat. I can't give this up. But I admired people who could. But yeah, it gave me good enough reason to go for it in not a fanatic way, but in a natural way. Especially when you take spiritualized food, you get this higher taste where it doesn't feel like you give up meat, but meat gives you up because you're on like a higher platform. You can't even stand the smell of burning meat anymore. You used to like it, but now you've been purified. Senses have been purified to want something higher. So yeah, this is the part of the enthusiasm, being possessed by God, being purified by taking of purified foodstuffs, prasada. Kirtan is always, that song can always go on forever. You can't listen to the same radio songs like you used to. Even I used to, sometimes you would hear it and it's like, okay, sounds good, but then it's over in 3 minutes. It's like, huh? Kirtan goes for at least like 10, 20 minutes. If it was a 5 minute kirtan, I'm like, what? So yeah, we're very blessed to be connected to such a process like Bhakti Yoga. Very blessed. Yeah. So this book, I don't know if you heard about it, Nectar Instruction. Maybe Manya can give you the link to it on database. And the book that Graham was reading, Science of Self-Realization, is on the same website, actually. They can get you a copy. Change your life. Okay. Anything else? You had another question? Oh,
I just shared the link to the book for Science of
okay. There you go.
Self-Realization.
Yeah.
I believe
Next
it's
instruction is also there. If you can
okay,
find it.
yes.
Yeah.
Let me get that.
Yeah.
This website is amazing if you ever want to find Bhakti Yoga resources.
Yeah. Really good website.
Yes. All right. Anything else before we end today? All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Harinamananda, for joining and helping us start the new year with such a bright and helpful outlook. We're so grateful to have you every time, and we're counting days till you're back in the next
All
year.
right. All right.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I'm always, my New Year's is, even though I talked about quiet, it's going to be loud because we're going to go to the Gold Coast in a town called Surfers Paradise.
I see.
And we're going to just be doing loud, heavy kirtan for like 5, 6 hours till the fireworks hit, kind of thing. So that's what I do every year. And on Christmas
Wow.
Day, we'll be taking over Bondi Beach. Thousands of people will be dancing and chanting. So
Love that.
anyway, it's I don't know how to say it's quiet. Maybe it's not. It's materially quiet still. It's about. Thank you so much for
Right.
your time.
All
Have
right.
a great New Year's. See you next time.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
everyone. Thank
Bye.
you. We'll see you next week.